We have been seeing major upheavals in the last week, but the fundamental problems remain. In a nutshell, a defunct parliament, a broken public sector, an almost dead transportation sector, and dollar problems to name a few. Now more than ever, there is a need to relook at our governance, and we have a golden opportunity in our hands, the 29 MPs on our national list. A group of concerned citizens have launched Club 29, the Crisis Cabinet Initiative, as a bid to get the right people in the right place when it comes to governance through the National List. Yasas Hewage, better known for his cycling prowess, is on Let's Talk today. So Yasas, you've mooted an interesting concept, the Club 29. So you want to build an A-team, a crisis cabinet, so to speak. How can this be done?
Club 29 is a simple concept. In the Parliament of 225, we have a provision for 29 National List members. Now that's a very powerful concept, but most of us have lost sight of. That's the allocation each party gets based on their percentage of votes to appoint people from outside the political system who are supposed to be experts in specific areas, which you might not be able to get from the traditional political system because you need canvassing at the ground level. But we fail to use that effectively. Immediately we can start playing with the 29, which has to be when we say club, what we meant was it has to be the best of the best who can come in and do the surgeries for the country. So we brought that concept out as a team. We've met all the party leaders to talk about it. And we are now trying to show the public also that we should ask for this in a very public point of view, and to say get the right people in right now by getting the current 29 to one by one step out and allow the right people to play, because the country needs that right now.
So briefly, what would their mandate be?
So we based that mandate on the 6 crisis priorities which are clear to all of us. We need the right people sitting in the dollar negotiations, IMF, bilateral, etc. You can't have rookies there because you're dealing with professionals in the world, and we are not the only country in crisis, and there's a limited amount of capability. So one-man show, two-man show won't work. Second thing is we have a FDI requirement. We need the dollars coming in through investment. Any crisis, there are investors. We need the right people out there pitching for that, and the tourism side. Thirdly, we have a transport crisis. We have to restructure some of that. We are suffering when we can't have a public transport system that works. So likewise, we set 6, including households. Right now you need ideally a woman, a mother who can speak to the household, the mothers who are going through a system change at home, the kids, somebody who's empathetic, who can talk to a country, emotionally talk to them and align them. So likewise, we've set up 6 crisis priorities. Actually, we made it 8, including the geopolitical capability where Russia is playing us, China is playing us. Do we have a top team who can think of this opportunity of Sri Lanka being in the Indian Ocean and play the game right? And then what we said is, let's set a criteria of how to select the people. So we set up 6 areas and said, hey, don't just look at just namesake professionals, which we've made a lot of mistakes, with all due respect to a lawyer or a doctor or maybe a professor. Some of them might not know the complexity of handling this extremely corrupt bureaucracy. The government sector, we know nothing works. If the politics are corrupt, the top of the chain, always the bottlenecks are at the top of the bottle.
So what should we be looking for?
So they can't be just professionals for namesake. They have to be experts in their own domain. They have to have entrepreneurial capability. They need to have ethical track record, so we can trust these people to some extent at least. And then they need to be also execution driven. They should have a track record. I mean, somebody who written a thesis about plants versus somebody who has planted 10,000 trees knows the complexity. Doing it island wide. So don't just hire people just because they have credentials. We have to put a criteria so we all know who to look for. And through this process, if we put the right people, at least let's say half of the 29, we'll start getting what type of people can actually play in our context in reality. So when the election comes, we are able to also set a criteria that we can figure out, okay, this is the type of person we are looking at, and hopefully out of the 225, at least 50, 60, 100 comes in who can actually play for the next 10 years of the country.
Where do we start?
Know the 29 national list is a key component in your decision with regard to a party and your voting. And then look for people, if you have the influence in your communities, and say they might not be all these high flying people who are always visible on television. They might be overseas and just waiting for the opportunity. Now they can come in, play for 6 months, do your part for the country and go back. Not take salaries, not take perks, and play a very, very professional role. So we've started a Facebook group called Club 29, where we have started publishing the criteria. Everyone can contribute to that. At the same time, if you feel there's people who are ready and capable to play in this national list, which we can collate through this criteria and then share with all the party leaders, and of course put our own pressure as influencers, that's the place, Club 29 on Facebook, to join and start putting your thoughts and ideas. Let's start there.
Yes, as from what you say, we need an educated citizen, and a citizen who's aware of how key this 29 or the National List MPs are. Thank you so much. Keep us on your radar, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn.